It's that time again. Welcome to episode 27 of the Legacy Driven Marriages podcast. I am here with my partner in crime, my better half, Stephanie McKinley.
Hey, everybody.
Man, I can't wait to get into this. It's time to continue to step into this relationship arena, guys. It's time to have some fun. It's time to continue these candid talks that we all need to have in order to strengthen our partnership with our spouse or our significant other.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this episode today. I think it's going to help a lot of people.
Yes. And so Stephanie and I actually heard this analogy a few different times in our marriage over the last 24 years, but we heard it recently from a couple that does the Stronger Marriages podcast, Trey and Lee. They talked about a relationship love bank. And look, here's the reality. We all have these emotional accounts with our partner that can either bring us into these truly extraordinary relationships, or heck, I mean, I know, there's plenty of people who out there who've gotten divorced because they don't invest into their love account, and they end up closing their bank account and moving it to another bank. And so our goal today is to help you not close your account, but to help give you strategies around this relationship love bank to ensure you're making more deposits and withdrawals to keep your love not only good or just happy, but honestly to make it thrive. And Steph and I, we've been, we've both taken more deposits at times and we both given more withdrawals at times. We've kind of been on both sides of that coin. And we found that there's some opportunities where our relationship struggled when we weren't being intentional. And now where our relationship continues to thrive as we continue to be intentional about what we're doing. So look, if you haven't done it, get your behind over there and hit that subscribe button before we get started. Let's get this bad boy rolling. Let's jump right into it. Well, first, before we jump into it, I'm just going to complain for a second. Man, let me tell y'all, it's been a heat wave everywhere. But I think
we're breaking records over here in Phoenix.
I think God is cooking Arizona just to see how much temperature man can and woman can actually take. It has been, no kidding. So we're at the beginning of July, and our hottest months are August and September, typically here in the Phoenix area.
Well, July.
And we broke the record for the most 115 plus days in a year, and we barely started some summer. So y'all pray for me and Steph.
Yeah, we're melting over here. Literally. Yeah, I'm really excited about today because I think that we want to share with you. We even went to the trouble of getting this little piggy bank. And if you're on YouTube, you can see I'm holding it up. We've actually got a real old fashioned piggy bank like we used to have when we were kids.
So if you're listening and you don't get to go watch us on YouTube right now, shameless plug, go follow our YouTube channel. But also, I want you to picture a white, cute little piggy bank, the old school kind that we all had when we were kids. And it says Love Bank on the side of it. And Stephanie even put 2 cute little hearts. Thank God she has better penmanship than me. Good Lord. It looks really pretty. Yes. It's written well. If you're on YouTube, you can see it. But if you're not, I want you to conceptualize and visualize this relationship love piggy bank that Stephanie is holding in her hand right now.
Yeah, because we want you guys to really envision this as your love account or your love bank, just like you would in a bank account. So just like we make deposits and withdrawals from a bank account, this is what you're doing in your relationship. And we love this concept that it really is like a deposit and withdrawal.
And it's so simple, right?
Yes. So every time we say we give our partner a compliment or we help them out with a chore or, any number of things, even saying I love you, that is like putting, I'm holding up a coin. That's like me depositing a coin into the bank account.
And you can hear it. She just deposited a real coin in that bad boy.
And so I really want to focus on too, that when we make these deposits and withdrawals, we're focusing on this individually, that This is like you creating your own bank account, your own savings account, and you making deposits and withdrawals, not focused on anything else other than having more deposits than withdrawals. And that this doesn't become a transactional thing where, well, I made a deposit, so they need to make a deposit. And you're not focused on that. This is your individual account. You need to focus on your deposits.
And I want you to think about it this way too, because Steph, you're absolutely right. Just think literally a bank account, withdrawal versus deposits. And think about whether or not you're always withdrawing. And you got to be honest with yourself when you're listening to something like this, guys. Like, if you want to have a thriving relationship, the level of personal accountability you need to have, your ability to stop pointing a finger at your spouse and saying what they're not doing, and start holding the mirror up to yourself and say, like, what am I actually not doing? Especially when we conceptualize it via this love bank, is so important to progressing your relationship past those tough seasons where, you know, you're really not getting along, you feel disconnected, you don't feel like your partner understands you, you're not understanding them, you're bickering, you're arguing. And then think about it, you know, we've joked about this before and we've done it. And by the way, it's not like we still don't do it. We just recognize it faster and get out of it. You argue over the pettiest, dumbest shit that you could ever argue over, to the point now where we did it last week right before we recorded the podcast. And I'm like, we got to hurry up and this and that. She's like, oh, you're acting like it's the end of the world. And then we just had to finally just start laughing at each other like, oh, Jesus, we're being so petty right now over the dumbest stuff. So don't think that we're, even though we talk about this stuff, don't think that we don't struggle with this. We can just recognize getting in that crazy cycle and get our butts out of there so much faster than we ever used to. So that deposit with versus withdrawal concept, we're going to talk about this, is so critical to where you're at. And I want you, after the podcast, right? Just think relationship now. But this is also important individually too. Like, are we putting deposits into ourselves and doing the things that are fun or that help us decompress after a long week of work, or that give us joy and energy and positivity and all these things? Are we depositing more into our own life, or are we allowing work and toxic people and, you know, our own lack of self that we all go through, self-doubt, lack of self-confidence, all these things? Are we allowing those to withdraw that leave us in a deficiency individually to where we don't even have any more money to go deposit into our spouse's account? And episodes 1 through 20 of the Legacy Driven Marriages podcast really focused on the individual. So if you haven't listened, go back and listen and learn how to like really maximize your own potential. Because if you can do that, then what you can deposit into your spouse's account and your relationship account will be extraordinary. And how you make them feel will change the way that they even treat you. It's amazing how it works when done correctly. And it's crazy just how bad it can get when it's not.
Well, this is true. He's right. You have to start with yourself too. Like, you have to be making deposits into yourself. You know, this is that self-care stuff. If you need to be doing those things for yourself, so you're filling yourself also. But I do want to focus on this one, the relationship love bank today, because if we're not making any deposits into that, we can't expect that there's going to be anything to withdraw, is what I'm getting at. Is, you know, so let's say you got up and made coffee for your spouse. I mean, what do you think that's going to do to start the day for your spouse? It's just going to start off on the right tone. And it also is going to make them want to do that for you, do those little things for you. It may not be the same thing, but it's something else that fills your love tank. And this is where, you know, I'm going to refer back to the love languages a lot because it's that crucial. Yeah. Knowing your partner's love language is where you start at, because that's, you know, whatever that is for them. Like, I know that Walt likes physical touch, so I will do the things like tickle his hair or give him a back massage, or we hold hands and we cuddle and we do things like that because I know that fills his love bank.
So did y'all catch Stephanie's pro tip? So we're going to give you a lot of ideas of deposits and ideas of withdrawals that we all do. But if you know, I just want to edify this stuff because I don't want people to gloss over that. If you know their love language, your deposit is like compounded because you're actually giving them what they want in their own life tank, and the output of what you get for your love bank will be tremendous. So make sure, if you haven't, we're going to talk about this on so many different podcasts. Make sure you know not only your love language but your spouse's. Read the 5 Love Language book by Gary Chapman, and then know your own, and then communicate yours to your partner, so that when they're doing things to fill your love bank, it maximizes that deposit. And also, you understand what the worst kind of withdrawal
And
can
like
be.
them, we're saying, yeah. And if you recognize, this is where you have to get really honest with yourself and with your partner, is, think about your relationship lately. How have you been treating your partner? How have you been treating your spouse? How are you doing personally? Because, you know, if, just like we put the deposit in, but if you're being harsh with your spouse and you're making rude comments and you're comparing them to other people and you're not being appreciative of what they're doing and you're not thanking them, and all of those things are making withdrawals. So you're taking away from your relationship and you're emptying that love bank. And if you're doing more of, if you think about it, if you're constantly doing those things, but you're never putting any deposits back in, you don't apologize, you don't take accountability for the things you've done, you don't show appreciation. If you don't ever do any of those things and you're only withdrawing, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to have an empty account. There's not going to be anything else to give.
So let's focus now. Let's focus on just the withdrawal part, right? And then we're gonna come back and we'll say, like, because we want people to be aware of the withdrawals they're making that you might not even know of. That might literally be a blind spot. When you listen to this, you think, "Holy shit, I actually do that." Even as we wrote some of the things down, I thought, "Damn, I still do some of this stuff sometimes," and I need to be more self-aware in those moments that I'm not making some serious withdrawals all at once. And
And to be honest, sometimes you make a pretty big withdrawal and you weren't putting any, like, sometimes I feel like it takes 5 positive actions or 5 deposits to compensate for one withdrawal that was really bad, or really a big one.
yeah,
So,
you ever seen like the bottom of the piggy bank where you could like pull the little plug and open it and like
yeah.
shake it and all the shit falls out at once? Like, some of those withdrawals are like that. Like, you put all these deposits in and you disrespect. So I'm going to say one of the big ones that I see from people. You disrespect your spouse in front of other people. You demean them or you belittle them. And I've done this, like, not, and if I'm really being honest, right? Because we're talking about being honest, just because I was kind of pissed because we run late a lot. I didn't use every time. I didn't say every time. We run late a lot. And it's like one of the, honestly, after 24 years of marriage, it's like our biggest tit for tat that we have with each other is Stephanie typically runs just on time or late. And I was in the military for 20 years. So if you're 15 minutes early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. So, and people have been like, "Oh man, it's good to see you guys. Oh, what happened?" I'm like, "I don't know, Steph, run late. You know how it is." And that's just not okay, right? Like, that's disrespecting my wife in front of other people. And so those moments, especially with something like that, that's like pulling the plug on that piggy bank and shaking the shit out of it and dropping like 3/4 of the coins and deposits that are in there at one time. So you got to really be really aware of what your actions are causing.
And if you think about it, if you were doing a lot of positive things, though, if you were showing a lot of love every day and they they knew that that was out of character for you, they'd be a lot more forgiving of it and a lot more have a lot more empathy for maybe you had a bad day or whatever. They're going to have a lot more forgiveness for that behavior if you were really doing a lot of deposits. Where if you weren't, though, and it was already kind of volatile and it was already like you're already kind of feeling like, man, I just don't feel loved, and then they do that on top of it, well, this is where it starts to get really ugly. And
Well,
we start to have a lot of resentment.
that's where you argue in front of people, right? That disrespecting your spouse in front of other people turns into an argument in front of other people.
Absolutely. I just had something I had something come to my head and I was like, "Oh, I really want to share that example because um it was a big one for in our relationship." Just like I had it and I lost it.
Well, you know what? We'll keep it moving. If you think of it, just jump back in. I think another thing that we see a lot of people do is the selfish stuff that people do. Okay, if you do this, you know what? If you help me with the dishes this week, we'll have more sex. That's horrible. It's horrible to say that to your spouse. That means that shows your spouse. Like if Stephanie said that to me, I'd be thinking,
Well, that's the thing that I don't think it's ever really said. It's just kind of implied.
oh, people
Or
say it.
it's
I've heard of people saying it.
really?
We might not have said it. I mean, we did imply it.
I was gonna say it's almost like an expectation you feel. It's just kind of there, but it's not really voiced or said. And that's where the communication stuff comes into play, where we don't really communicate those things. It's just kind of
But think about
an
like
undertone.
as a spouse, if you like, if you help me with the dishes, we'll have more sex. So if I'm the high sex drive person, I'm thinking,
But this is where I said that's transactional. I don't like transactional things in a relationship.
you're 100% correct. and this is, but so as a high sex drive spouse, I'm thinking, well, damn, like, okay, well, what's wrong with me that you just don't want to have sex with me in general? Like, what's happening this? What's happening that? And then I get selfish. It drives self-doubt. It builds resentment in a relationship. So there's two things that I got to do in this moment to say, like, why am I feeling like that? Like maybe my spouse was just having a bad day and she just really just wanted help with the dishes. She just felt like I wouldn't do it if she didn't offer something in return. So why does she feel like I wouldn't do it unless she offered something in return? And then why am I taking it so personal when it actually has nothing to do with me? It has everything to do with how my spouse felt in the moment. And like Stephanie just said, then you build a transactional relationship and holy crap, man, your relationship's doomed unless you both yank yourself up and take some self accountability at the same time and really start to move into a different capacity where you do things for your spouse, where you get to do something for them. You don't have to do something for them.
By the way, we feel so strongly about this because we did this.
Shit, we lived it firsthand. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt.
We were doing that for a while and our relationship got to a really bad place. And that's why we're sharing this with you is don't let yourselves get to that place. Don't make it transactional. Don't make it to where it's tit for tat. And if I do this, you'll do that. Don't do that. Do things because you want to do them because you love your spouse and you want to see them happy. That's why you do it.
So what are the withdrawals we got on here, Steph?
So one it just came back to me. One of the one of the withdrawals that I did is I compared Walt to my dad. And I realized that this was, it was just I didn't communicate it well. And so I used to tell him, "You're reminding me of my dad." And he just got super defensive and was like, "I'm nothing like your dad." And to be honest, like their personalities are not alike at all. But it was a behavior that was happening. And honestly, this is because it really, and if I get to the root of it, I've come to realize it's because my love language, I didn't understand this for a long time. I'm just going to point this out too. And this is why I also key in on the love languages so much, is I realized that one of my primary love languages is quality time. And I really value that. And it really makes me feel loved. And so at the time, our children were young and Walt loved to go fishing. That was one of his hobbies that he enjoyed by himself.
That's how I filled my bucket.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. Self-care, right? I just felt like it was a little bit more than it should have been, I guess, I wasn't getting that for myself either. So honestly, there's probably some selfishness in there too of like, well, I'm not getting to fill my tank and you're getting to do it a lot.
And you weren't communicating that with me either.
Right. But I also had my own like mom guilt. I didn't want to leave the kids. And so there's a lot of dynamics going on there, but ultimately he was fishing a lot and I felt like he wasn't spending the quality time with me and the kids. That's how I felt. And it was reminding me of the childhood thing that it took me back to, which was my dad did that with golf. He would put golf above the family, or that's how I felt about it. And so that was a hurt from my childhood that I was bringing into our marriage. And ultimately, it was because I felt like my love language wasn't being, you know, filled. So I can tell you that now, but I didn't realize it at the time. And this is the kind of stuff why we are so big on self reflection and
Mm.
really trying to remove yourself from a situation sometimes and really ask yourself some really deep personal questions like, where is this coming from? Why do I have such a strong emotion about it? Why do I feel so strongly about it? Because sometimes we don't even understand it for ourselves. So, how are we going to communicate that to our spouse if we don't even understand it for ourselves? And I think in some way I knew, but I just didn't know how to communicate it to him. And at the time, I didn't know about the love languages. I just was trying to tell him, like, I want your time with us. And, but I ended up comparing him to my dad and it didn't go well. I mean, he took it like, why are you comparing me? And I'm not like him. And so he was just tuning it out.
And it's not like her dad isn't a great dude,
Right.
so, and a great father and a great father-in-law. So it's not an indictment on him, but imagine the difference in how Stephanie would have said it. Deposit
Mhm.
versus withdrawal. This is a great example. You're acting like my dad. I'm mad. I'm tuned out. I ain't even hearing her.
Mhm.
Right now, that's my own triggers that I had to deal with it individually. But where she said, I just really want to spend some time with you. I miss you. I want to, I want to be able to hang out more. Or I need to get out. Then now she's making a deposit into my love bank because
Right.
now
Look
I
how
feel loved and
different
now I feel
look
wanted.
how
So,
differently that's communicated and
right.
how differently you're going to receive it if it's communicated in that way.
Yes. And there's so many, I think another withdrawal people do a lot is, and then I want to move to some deposits. Another withdrawal people do a lot is they'll say, well, I know I did that, but you did this. No, 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 no. Your actions and your reaction to your own emotions are your responsibility. They're not your spouse's.
Right.
They're your responsibility, period.
And by the way, if you come at your spouse in that way and you're just telling them because you did this, they're tuning out. Like
They're
you're blaming
defensive.
me. Yeah, you're blaming me and they're going to get defensive
Yeah, yeah.
and they're not going to hear what you're saying at all because you're placing the blame on them instead of taking accountability and saying how you feel. That's why we keep keying in on when you
Mm-hmm.
express an emotion to your spouse, you need to say, I feel like this, not you did this.
Right. Or here's what I need.
Yeah.
Right. Like, but then what do you need? Because maybe you're not showing up for them the way you thought that you were showing up because you're so focused on yourself. So there's a real fine balance here. You got to have the self-care and self-love, but then you also have to really invest, compromise, and be selfless in your
Mm-hmm.
relationship all the time. Not selfless to the point where you lose yourself, but selfless where you're really in a partnership and a team. And it's not like you're the coach and your spouse is a player and you're telling your spouse what plays you're going to run. No, it's a team. You're
Mm-hmm.
managing that relationship together. And so I think a couple other things I just want to touch on is just that refusing to compromise. And because I just talked about that a second ago. We've seen a lot of relationships where it's always the same person's thing, right? It's always the same person. And by the way, people can be really adept at manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're acting like whatever you want to do, but it's bullshit. Like think about a boss that you might have had at work and they're like, I like to collaborate. It's all about the team. What do you guys think? And then you say what you think and they're like, yeah, we're not doing that. We're doing it what I wanted to do anyway. Well, they're not compromising with you.
Mm.
That doesn't make you feel good if you're in your job. Why would that make your spouse feel good in the relationship or you if your spouse is doing that to you? And I also want to challenge you guys, like, maybe listen to some of these with your spouse because hearing a different perspective or just the way we articulate it differently from maybe how you tried to will create some dialogue and some conversation and hopefully some positive flow to your relationship that maybe you're really searching for. So don't feel like you got to go back and execute all these. You have to do your part, but maybe listen to this podcast with your spouse or your partner in your relationship. And then let this be the bridge point to having a bigger, better conversation that really moves you from that struggle part of your relationship into a thriving part. So
I also want to mention the tone of how you say something
Yeah, I
is
know.
a lot
I'm bad at
too.
this part sometimes.
Because sure, you can say something and just how the tone of it, they can clearly tell you're upset, it's bothering you, but the words they're saying are acting like they're not, but you're like, it's totally conflicting. So how you say something is just as important as what you say.
Mm,
Because when we have a tone of there's an attitude there, and just as simple as saying, I'm fine, but how you say I'm fine is very indicative of how you actually feel.
well, they got their arms crossed and they're like, I don't care. You could do whatever you want to do. Well, if they meant that, they wouldn't have their arms crossed. If you guys watch it on YouTube, you can see me, the scowl on their face. Do whatever you want to do. I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
They don't mean that shit. Like, you could tell in their tone they don't mean it. But it's like in the Navy, I guess military period, we would say good for you, right? Hey, good for you, buddy. But really, good for you could also mean go F yourself. And so my tone might actually be even good when I'm saying, but the meaning behind what I'm saying is not good. It really means like, stop bragging on yourself and go F yourself. Like, and so, I mean, I'm being funny, but we all have instances where we've done it and where we've had it done to us. So you gotta be, dude, like, be ultra intentional about making sure that you're withdrawing as much as possible, because you will do it, because you will have a bad day. You will take your frustration from the work day out on your spouse on accident.
You mean depositing?
Well, no, I'm saying make sure you're not withdrawing, or withdrawing as little as you can. Yeah. Is probably what I meant to say. Withdrawing as little as you can. Thanks, Steph. Let's make sure we get that right, baby. Because you're going to have days where you're a human being and you're going to make some mistakes. Own it, take accountability, apologize where you need to, and be better the next time and more intentional the next time. And so how do you, but how do you, like, so we talked a lot about withdrawals and the negative connotation behind what that is, but damn, like, you want to talk, like, if you just broke even and withdraw to very little, right? But you weren't making deposit, your relationship's still going to suck. When Stephanie and I, and even today we do this a lot, the level of our relationship and the way that it thrives is because of the deposits that we make with each other. And I want to make sure, and Steph, I want you to jump in and talk about some of these deposits, the micro versus macro version of deposits. So like, we all think macro. We're not, it's almost like winning the lottery. Like, you're going to win the lottery one day and you're going to put all this money in your bank account.
Yeah, like you're looking forward to that lump sum of money coming in, or that big bonus you're going to get once a year.
Yeah.
And
that vacation,
that's going to pay off everything when you get that one big lump sum of money.
Yeah.
But you should know that you're going to accumulate more debt in that time. So it's never really ever going to cover it all.
That vacation you're going to take as a family is going to fix everything. Oh man, when I stop putting work first, when I'm 55 and I'm retired, then my wife and I are going to have a great relationship. No, you're probably not going to have a spouse at that point. So I think stop looking at the macro things. Those are great. Those are big deposits you put in, but your account will be in deficiency and your account could be closed if you're not doing the micro things. And we're going to talk about micro things you can do from a deposit perspective that can build so much into that relationship love bank that there's very little deposits that could take all of that away. Then when you put the lump sum in there.
I also want to make another point that your behavior. So when we say actions speak louder than words, it's really true. Like, because you can say things all day long or not say things, and it's not going to equate to what you're actually showing. Like, your actions are really showing how you feel.
Yeah.
So if, for instance, you may never actually say anything negative, or you didn't actually do anything wrong, but if you aren't spending time with your spouse and your family, and you aren't doing those little things every day, and like you're always at work and you don't really spend time with your family, and you don't really say I love you that often, and you're not really giving them hugs, and you're not doing all these little behaviors, what is that really showing them? Like, you're showing, wherever you're putting your effort and energy and attention is showing what you actually care about. So if it's not putting it into your spouse and you're putting it somewhere else, and you're putting it into work, and you're putting it into some other relationship, then it shows that you don't really care and love your spouse. So
Actions speak louder than words. We've all heard it since we were little kids, and
it's
it's
really
still true
true
today.
because where you put your money and effort shows what you care about. So for some people, and I'm going to say, like, there is a lot of, I see, like I said, this happened within my own family is like, I see that my dad puts a lot of effort into golf and money there. It's showing me you care more about that than me and my family. And I'm just using that as a small example, but you know what I'm talking about. And if say you always are watching football or playing football or doing that and it comes before you spending time with your wife, then that's what she's going to equate as more important to you because where you put your time and energy and effort shows what you love. I don't care what you say.
Mm-hmm.
Your actions show what you really care about.
Yeah, if you're like, not right now, baby, I'm watching Sports Center, and you do that all the time, guess what? She's not going to try to talk to you at all, and she's going to shut down at some point. I promise you. So, Steph, what are like? Let's give them some real like tactical things that they can do with deposits. Like, run down some stuff they can do to like start right now and make deposits today in their relationship.
Well, this is the ones that I'm going to tell you I loved. And I told Walt when we were working on repairing ours, just starting the day, that kiss and hug before you leave for the day, yes, it goes really far.
Mm-hmm.
A hug and kiss, I love you. Start every day with that. And like I said, for some of you, if you're coffee people, that making that coffee in the morning can go a long way with your spouse.
Even if it's on your way out the door.
Yeah.
And it's just brewed when your spouse gets up.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like they get to get up to their coffee already made for them. And for some people, you're going to be, you're singing their love language. Mm-hmm. You're going to have filled their tank for the day.
Coffee might be a love language unto itself for some people. Let me tell you, we're not big coffee drinkers.
We're not. I know a lot of people who are. And so I just thought like that. And, same thing when you come home for the day and you greet your spouse in that way and you come in and you give them a hug and you say, I missed you today. And the same when going to bed, you give them a kiss and a hug goodnight and you give them, and you tell them I love you and you pray together. All those are little things, but I can't tell you how far that goes, especially, well, at least for women.
Well, and I
speak for me.
I think it's those micro deposits, but you're constantly making them, right? Like those are the easy ones to make, or they don't feel easy sometimes when you're on the struggle bus in your relationship, but they are easy to do if you're being intentional. Like those are the constant deposits you're making. And giving you a kiss when we left, I just didn't want to wake you up. Like I did it for a long time. And then I felt like I was always waking you up and I was going to work at that point, like leaving the house at 6 a.m. So I just didn't want to wake you up. Then you're like, well, no, I do it anyway. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So it wasn't even like I didn't want to give her a kiss. No. I just thought I was doing her a solid by not waking her up. Cause I know if somebody goes to kiss me on my face when I'm asleep, you might get attacked because I might have a flashback or something.
This is one of those, like I communicated to him what I like personally.
Yes. And so guess what I do?
Also, I know I can tell you for Walt, food is one of his love languages.
You better stop playing. You better stop playing with me. Y'all know I talk about steaks a lot.
He was very vocal about how he loved to have dinner made for him when he got home from work. So,
and not like put on a plate and serve to me, just like being ready to eat because I'm hungry.
Yeah. For him, I was speaking his love language if dinner was made and ready when he got home from work. That was huge to him. And I'll tell you, it was a big point of contention in our relationship because I am not a person. I grew up in a household where we didn't eat early, but he is the type that likes to eat early. So it was very hard for me to kind of get out of that routine of I was used to eating later, but he got up really early and I didn't always get up as early as him either. So I wasn't always hungry at the same time. So it was actually a pretty big point of contention in our relationship. Like he gets hangry too.
It's like the Incredible Hulk. You won't like me when I'm hangry. And that works really well with my hoarse voice right now. Okay, so I want to run through some of these too. So I think ask yourself, when was the last time you told your spouse how handsome or beautiful they were? Man, like, woo, don't that feel good when somebody tells you that they're attracted to you? When was the last time, ladies, for men especially, but for women, love this too, especially if like your spouse is at home. When was the last time, men, if you're working and your wife's at home, that you just thanked her for taking care of the kids and holding down the house and like just handling business so you could go out and you could earn the money that's going to take care of your house while she actually takes care of the house and creates a home? When was the last time you thanked your partner for that? When was the last time, ladies, you said, hey, honey, thank you just for going out and working so damn hard for our family. I just really appreciate everything that you do for us. You will make a man cry talking to him like that. And men typically don't cry as much because we're just programmed. When was the last time you just rubbed your partner's back or tickled their hair? Like even sitting here on the podcast, I have my hand on Stephanie's leg. We're both physical touch people. She tickles my back and hair a lot. Then she's like, well, tickle my foot or something at the same time now, like, because I like it too. Here's a huge one for me. And this is when I see people fail out a lot in relationships, really struggle. And it talk about a withdrawal that shakes the whole piggy bank and empties it out. When was the last time you encouraged or supported your partner's goals and dreams? Does your partner even want to tell you their goals and dream, or are they worried about you knocking them down? When was the last time you said, as I left corporate America and Stephanie supported, and I wouldn't have done it without her support. She said, leave corporate America. We'll sell the house. We'll do whatever we have to do. I've been begging you to write your memoir, which went #1 bestseller. I've been, you wanted to be a professional speaker for 26 years and we're killing it there, which has then evolved into legacy driven marriages and us partnering together. She knew that was my vision and my dream my whole life. She supported that in a super huge way with us leaving 80% of our income on the table, which, man, I was like, wow, how blessed. And so then I'm in gratitude. How blessed and lucky am I to have a wife that's going to support me like that. So no matter what your spouse's goals and vision and dreams are.
Yeah. And I got to tell you guys, when our kids were little, well, actually before that, I didn't get to finish college. I was in my last year when Walt actually got transferred to Japan and we had just gotten married and I wasn't going to spend any more time away from him. Like we ended up spending 8 months apart. And so I went with him. So I never finished, but in my early 30s and now we had kids that were 4 and 6, I really wanted to finish my degree and I wanted to go back to school. Well, Walt really did support me in that. And he had to do a lot of things like he had to take on making dinner sometimes because I had a night class or, there was a lot of things that it did affect our relationship because it was just adding a lot to what was already busy in our life. And he really supported me through that. And, not everybody would do that. That's the kind of stuff that we've supported each other's things that we really wanted to do when we knew our spouse really wanted that. We did support each other in that. And so it does go really long way.
Well, and for me, it was like, man, when you graduated, I'll never forget. I was so proud as your husband too. Like, not only did you get, like, I almost tear up just thinking about it. Not only did you get that moment for you, you needed that for you. But I was proud, like, woo, I was yelling and shit in the crowd and the kids were yelling. They're next to me and Steph getting stirred up right now too. Steph's down there and she's so excited. It's like this culmination of this military moves and all this stuff and that we had been through at that point. And finally getting back to the place where she started college so she could finish college and then doing it. And it was hard and it was a challenge. And what a cool thing for me to support my wife on. And then the second piece to encourage and support your partner's goals and dreams is find some combined goals and dreams. What we're doing with legacy driven marriages, I mean, we're really just kicking this thing off. Like we know we're going to help save marriages and we know the ripple effect of that is going to be other people helping save other people's marriages. And if we're doing that, we're walking in God's purpose in our life. There's nothing better. And the fact that I get to do it with my best friend and my wife, and I get to see her blossom on the podcast and people tell her she has a smooth radio voice. Hey, nobody told me I got a radio voice, maybe a face for radio. That's about it. So I think it's so cool to be able to do that, man. Like there's some energy and some synergies in your relationship that change dynamically when you're supporting each other in that way. And really kind of just going all in together. So find one thing at least to support that your partner really wants to do and then do that with them. And then I'll say this last one and I we're getting 40 minutes now, so we're going to wrap up. say something specific. Say thank you, but be specific with them. It's like I talked about. Thank you so much for just going out. I know you're working a lot of hours. I know it's stressful. I just want to say thank you. I see you. People want to feel seen and they want to feel heard. And so when you can say something specific about what they're doing that you appreciate, that compliment, think about for you, that compliment will always mean more. And put it in the perspective when somebody tells you something specific, how do you feel versus somebody gives you a blanket vanilla statement? Man, it just hits different in your heart and your soul and your motivation and your energy when somebody gives you something specific. These little things that we forget about to do for our spouse sometimes, because sometimes we focus on ourselves or we're stressed or whatever it is, really will transform your relationship. So lots of deposits on there, guys. Lots of deposits.
Look, I'm wiping away tears because I'm still, I got to tell you guys, there's nothing more awesome than achieving goals and dreams together as a couple. Like this, like he's talking about, like us getting to work together finally after all these years. We've supported each other in different endeavors, and and we were kind of working on it together the whole time also, but it was still kind of individualized. This is the first time we're really getting to work together on the same goal and mission. And I got to tell you guys, it's amazing. It's really awesome to be able to do this together. And I can't say that that's always the case. I mean, and it's not that there aren't struggles that come along with that too. And sometimes
the entrepreneur journey together can be a struggle sometimes.
But it's really awesome to be able to dream together and go after the same things together and do that in synergy. There's nothing that beats that. And I gotta say, you guys, I was so excited for this episode, and I still am, because I just think this is one of the biggest, most crucial pieces to understand. And it's one of the biggest lessons we took away from our struggle in our marriage was this concept of the deposits and versus withdrawals. Like, you really do have to be putting intentional effort into making those deposits more than the withdrawals. Really try to maximize, it's like going back to the math equation, but make your deposits greater than your withdrawals. I can't stress it enough, because like I said, sometimes one withdrawal negates a lot of deposits. And so you got to kind of always have your deposits higher and always be intentional about trying to be the best spouse you can be, and really be there and support your spouse in the best way that you can, and be intentional about it, because inevitably there's going to be withdrawals. There's going to be times where you mess up. There's going to be bad days, and you're going to do things you maybe didn't intend to do, but it's going to hurt your spouse. And so, but if you're making these daily deposits, then the withdrawals won't be such a detriment to your relationship.
All right. So we have some action items for you guys today. Just 2 of them, super simple. But I want you to create a surplus, right? I want you to put some savings in your love bank. So we have a 30-day challenge for you guys. I want you to take the next 30 days and at least twice per day, right? At least twice per day, I want you to make a deposit into your love bank. We gave you a bunch of examples. I want you to make a deposit into your love bank. I should say we, not I, but with no expectations of anything being done in return. You're not making the deposit to influence or get your spouse to do something back.
I want you to watch the reaction in your spouse when you put that deposit in.
And if you're in a struggle season,
watch what it does.
At first, they might be suspect. Like, why are you telling me you think I'm pretty all of a sudden? What you mean, thank you for watching the kids? Like, no shit. I've been doing that. What you mean, thank you for going to work? That's super weird. You've never told me that.
This is true. This is true. It might not be received the way you think at first if you're in a bad part of your relationship, but
success
over time,
consistency and discipline and constant movement forward will drive success. It's not the one hit wonder. It's not doing it for 1 week. It's taking 30 days and twice a day. You're going to make deposits, right? Without making withdrawals. You're going to make deposits with no expectations. And you just watch. First week, maybe there's suspect. Second week, By the third week, they're like, I'm liking this. By the fourth week, they're like, man, I love you too. Can I just tell you how amazing you are? And it's amazing what you can do in your relationship. And it's like such a short period of time. I'm not talking about years of this. You're going to do it for years moving forward. Take 30 days, twice a day. And then I want you to join our free community on Facebook and Instagram at Legacy Driven Marriages. I want you to do this for 30 days, and I want you to tell us how it transformed your relationship. But I want you to get into the arena in these groups that we're building, to get in there with other people who are fighting for their relationships, who are really working hard to make their relationships thrive, not just survive. And by doing that and getting around other people in that way and keeping yourself immersed in that kind of positivity, not only is it going to transform you, but it's going to transform your relationship. So 30-day challenge, join the free Facebook community. And
another thing I just want to say real quick is I want you to think about if there's something your spouse has been telling you and you've been kind of gaffing it off or like just kind of being in denial or being like, I'm not like that. I don't do that. I want you to really take it in and start dwelling on and thinking about why are they saying that? And maybe have a deeper conversation with them about it. Kind of ask them, well, why do you tell me that? Why do you say that? Because odds are there's something that you're not catching. And then maybe if you started to, turn that around, maybe they're complaining about how they never see you or they never spend time with you or, and you go out of your way to make intentional time for them.
Deposit.
I mean, what a difference you might see. I mean, what's it going to hurt to try?
That's right. That's right. You got nothing to lose except for your relationship. So do you want to be right or do you want to have a relationship? You got to ask yourself that. And I know every one of you guys listening to this fell in love with your spouse or your partner, stayed with them. Some people are married on this. Some people aren't. Are staying with them because you love them, because you're in love with them. Don't let the anger and hurt make you take withdrawals. Start making deposits, 30-day challenge. I want you guys to hit that one hard. And we're just going to go ahead and wrap it up now. So until the next time.
Oh. Keep fighting for your marriage, keep loving each other, and keep elevating your family legacy.
See y'all next Tuesday.